Oh, I don't even know. This is like 006 or 007. Alright, so our mic is rolling. Alright. This is maxed out. Here we go. Hey, what's up? It's Kit. Time for another video. Today, we are rigging the Cojyant Cxw 300. A very good jig for slower current velocities. I mean, this is one of Wael's favorite jigs, and he uses it mostly when the current's low. Very good long fall jig, but also good for slow pitch. So overall, I would say this is kind of like a very good slow to medium, low medium current jig. The only thing I don't like about this jig is that it's all silver, but there are other colors, of course, but this specific one, since we're rigging it, kind of don't like it. All right, so for the hooks, I want to use chase on this one, so we're gonna have to look for the right size, which is this one right here. It's a 6.0. 7, which I picked up first, would be kind of too big. And then what we're gonna do for this is that both the front and the back will be rigged with wire. All right, as always, we have the jig. We go to the middle part right here, which is the thickest part, and we put the hook in the middle. As you can see, sticking out right there. And that's how I gauge the hooks that we're using. We look at the width, and the hook should be put on the halfway point, and the hook is actually sticking out a bit. Gives you a bit more consistent results than, you know, just guessing, because hook sizes vary from brand to brand, even from model to model. This way, everything's consistent, irregardless of brand, irregardless of sizing convention from the manufacturers themselves, and what have you. Alright, so I put a knot at the end of the cord, and this is a metal core from Marine. This is Marine White, 180-pound test. Right, so I am going to show you how we size things first. Okay, so we take the length of the jig without the eyes, put in a little bit for the tightening of the knot and the knot itself, so that you'll have a bit of allowance, obviously, when you tie. All right, so here's the second knot. First knot is here already, and what we need to do is cinch this down. Okay, so that's cinched down as much as we can. I'm going to put a small tag there so that we can grip that with our pliers. And then run this through another set that has eyes, so we can tighten it just like that. Again, let's try it again. I'm not super convinced here. We want it super tight. So before we even start, this is like something. Okay. Go. Okay, so that is tight as can be, and I want to make sure that's very tight because we don't want that to slip. Cut a little bit, well, cut a lot off, and then there's gonna be a tad bit left there, but that's fine. All right, now there's several ways of doing this, and I will show you how I'm doing things so that okay. Now what I'm doing here is just positioning it, holding the thread. Again, there's so many ways to do this, but what we're doing right now is this is a technique that I use when I want to put in binds that are super thin. There's not much there, and basically what it is just one binding going back, one binding going back, and another going forward. So that's two, and you'll see that it's very neat. It's very thin. So I'm just holding this to guide it, and I am doing this very tight. And also, if you noticed, the wraps are very neat and beside each other. Now, these hooks are, of course, the jigger medium chase, and these are very sharp, so be very careful when you're using these. And again, we're wrapping, very neat. After this, we're going to super glue it, but I'm not showing that. So basically, we're just using super glue after everything, and super glue holds everything together, keeps it from falling apart, but the power from your assist hooks and the strength comes from those binds. Okay. There we go. We're gonna have to do this twice. Once for the front and once for the back. You could see there, that's very neat. Okay. Okay, before we start with the process of the other one, I am going to tape this because these things are very sharp and I don't want to mess up because I have suffered so much. And I hate needles, and guess what? I hate being stuck. Okay, I'm going to show you that trick that I use again just to make it very clean. Okay, so okay, hold it where you want it. Take my thread here, and no, I'm using fishing braid. Okay, just so you guys know, a lot of people have been asking, even if I mentioned that a lot. Fishing braid, ultralight fishing braid, so that's less, 4 pounds or less. Okay, so there we go. Snag that bit there, and then I tie like 3, 4, 5 times, sometimes more. Let me adjust here. and then I pull tight. If it doesn't move, that is it. Then I start my wraps. While I'm starting those wraps, okay, I cut the tag end. There we go. Now you can hold this so that it's steady. Hold that knot and then work towards that knot. Okay, let me just turn on one more light here. I kind of have a hard time. Just a bit of brightness. There we go. Yeah. Okay. You can see there, that is super clean. And then you could do your whip finish, you could do your half hitches, whatever your preferred knot is for closing. All right. So that's it basically. We're just going to repeat this twice. There's some fuzz there. Super clean. All right. Now let's put in the I'm gonna put in the solid ring. I have to be very careful with this because this is so sharp. I mean, I love the hook, but it's dangerous. Yeah, I always tell my daughter it's be very careful when you're going into my office because there's a lot of sharp stuff in there. And she follows the instruction, but the dogs, I am very afraid because obviously the dogs don't know. There's a lot of small stuff here that's sharp, so sometimes when they hang out here, I have to be very careful. They love grabbing things with their mouth, so. All right, now. Okay, so we are just about to tighten everything. I'm gonna bring you out here so that you can see. Okay, so we have our knot, and mind you, this is wire. Okay, so okay, now let us tighten with one. Okay, that moved as expected. Then let's do it with the other one, and it will move too. There we go. Now they're back to equal length. Okay, as you can see there. Pull this together. Oh. All right. There we go. Now, it's just putting it on the jig. Okay, so it's right there. Okay, that's where the hooks are. So front hooks are gonna be short. Now, I am always repeating this, but again, I'll repeat it for those guys that keep on asking the same thing. You want the hooks at the back longer because they have nothing to snag. If you have a long section in front, it will snag your leader a lot. Okay, it's as simple as that. That's why you want your back hook to be longer than your front hook or your front hook set. It's as simple as that, because you don't want the front hooks to snag your leader. That's also the reason why they're stiffer, because you don't want them to snag your leader. Okay, now let me just kind of measure things here. Okay. Right. Okay. Now, time to pull this sucker. Ah, as tight as can be. What we want is for that not to be pretty small, as possible. Cut the tags. Okay, now we're ready to tie. Again, okay, let's adjust this. Okay, so I hold the thread, position it with the cord, and then tie 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I pull. When that doesn't move, I start to wind backwards. It's as simple as that. And then cut the tag as close as I can. So find where the tag wants to be cut. Okay, now I just guide. And this is very, very tight, guys. Very, very tight. You don't want this to be loose here. Okay, so a few more. There we go. Now I am going to wrap forward. Again, these wraps touch each other. In fly fishing terms, these are called touching turns. Like that. Okay, now let me zoom in just so you guys can see. You see that? Very clean. And that's just 2 layers. And that's, believe it or not, more than enough for this, just as long as you wrap it tight and you have the right sized line, everything will be fine. The problem is if you don't know how to, like if you have your line too thick, that's going to be a problem. If you have your line too thin, that's going to be a problem. If you just have it right, how to gauge? Experience. Because to tell you honestly, whenever you buy braid, you don't know if it's going to be thick or thin, because a lot of brands, that's another good reason to stay with one or two brands really, is that kind of too thick or too thin. And sometimes even from the same brand, the different types of braid, they're different. So try to stick with one or two that in your experience is just right. And that's what I've been doing. The ones that I use are Major Craft, which unfortunately the type of braid that I like is now out of circulation here in Dubai. So kind of in the process of looking for another brand. And for stuff like this, it's actually also worth looking at the Chinese market, because if it's just for binding, you don't need JDM stuff. Okay, there we go. So again, we're gonna wrap back. This is so tight, sometimes the braid actually snaps. So right now I'm actually looking for another type of braid that I could use for this, another brand. So once I have, maybe I'll share, but this is just mostly old fishing braid. That way, when the line gets messed up, you have use for it. Okay, so that's that. Now we are just going to wrap. Okay. 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 Now that we're done, you can see there, I like just stretching things out. Just to see. Okay, that does not move. Now we just have our solid ring. Okay, this is gonna be a bit tricky. So, because the assist cord is pretty short, so okay. Now that that's in, we make sure that the knot is well formed before we actually go and tighten things. All right, so that's done. All right. Okay, now everything is in order. All we have to do then is just adjust so that they sit where how we want it to, not where but how we want them to, which is opposing such like that. And then we can go ahead and install in the split ring. We can see exactly how we did here. I'm so scared that this would actually fall. Sketchy. Alright, so alright, there we go. You can see that. Alright, they meet, but they're not gonna snag each other. That's the thing right there. Okay, in the relaxed position, barely miss out on tangling each other, but that should be okay. Alright, so you have your short, you have your long. That'll catch some fish. Alright, so guys, that is it. Rigging the Cojyant Cxw. I'll catches a ton of fish on these, while Faisal catches a ton on Sea Falcon, Deepliner, all that. Alright, so there we go. Okay, that's weird. Oh, okay. So that's right. So I for a while there I thought this was the front, but no, this is the front right here. You can see there's the long one, short one. All right, guys. So if you have questions, just give me a heads up in the comment section, of course. And that's it for now. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Class dismissed.